Hello Anglophonians, and welcome to another episode where we take a look at the European comic culture. And this time it's the little people again. The story we are now looking at is called Of Mice and Little Men. This reminds me of something. Well, let's take a look. Our story actually begins quite harmlessly. A swimming competition is taking place in a large swimming pool in the city of the little people. But after the starting shot, it turns out that the referee fired with a weapon loaded with real cartridges instead of a pistol with blank cartridges as intended. The bullet hits the city's sugar warehouse building, damaging the machines that process sugar and destroying a large part of the little people's sugar supply. To get sugar quickly, there's only one solution. The little people have to secretly break into a shop in the city of the big ones and get some. Time is running out, so the plan will be put into action as quickly as possible. There are a few minor glitches, but the campaign is still successful. Loaded with countless sugar cubes, the little people's flying machines make their way back. But the engine of one of the aircraft fails and it has to make an emergency landing. Renault and his friends try to repair the broken aircraft, but the sugar in the hold attracts mice who attack the aircraft. It tips over and is destroyed. The other aircrafts return to the town of the little people to unload their cargo and get help. But while Renault and his friends wait for the others to return, they have to flee from a mouse attack and get lost in the wilderness. When help finally arrives, they can no longer find Renault and the others. Renault and his friends now have to try to survive in the wilderness and wonder whether help will come. The little people in the city, on the other hand, wonder how long one can survive in the wilderness. The situation becomes increasingly difficult for Renault and his friends when an injured blackbird challenges them for food. The story of Mice and Little Men was published in episodes in Spirou magazine from October 1969 to February 1970. The scenario of the story comes from Albert Debrechin. Seron has finally found his style in the story, which he will continue to develop from now on. You can see this particularly in Renault. His head is no longer quite as elongated and his nose is no longer as pointed. The story is an adventure story, one could even say a Robinsonade, because Renault and his friends have to survive in the wilderness like Robinson Crusoe on his island. The resolution is also very clever, and I have to give a spoiler warning here. I will now reveal something about the ending. Everyone prepared? Or those who don't want to hear the end gone already? Okay, so the crux of the solution is the blackbird that shows up at Renault and his friends. Renault insists on helping the injured animal. When the bird is healthy again, Renault can fly back to the town of the little people on its back. Then there is a touching moment. The blackbird is of course much too big for the city of the little people, so Renault sends it away. But the blackbird returns and touches the meteoroid that shrunk everyone in the city. Now the proportions are correct again and the blackbird can stay. Of Mice and Little Men is an exciting and unusual story, but it's far from the most unusual thing we'll see in the series. In 1969, when the story was first published, the first moon landing had just happened and the space age had begun. Seron has already been inspired by science fiction films when it comes to equipping his little people. This should become even more so in the future. But that is another story and will be told another time. So there you have it, the little people. Next time we take another look at the history of the Europa Park. Until then, take good care of yourself and see you, and like and subscribe.